It's 7 o'clock.
Yeah, it's the same amount. And this is second and third.
Call a roll.
Mr. Griffin,
Present.
Dr. Matusik, Mr. Simrod,
Here.
Mr. Loud,
Present.
Mrs. Charmison. Here.
Welcome, y'all. There is no comments for section agenda item 2. I saw nobody signed that. We're all free to speak in this room anyway. 3, consent agenda. Does anybody have any item of the consent agenda they would like to have pulled out for further discussion? Seeing none, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Simrod,
Yes.
Mr. Loud,
Yes.
Mrs. Charmison. Yes.
4.1 in regular business regarding changes to the electronic communications policy.
So what brought about the changes to the electronic communication policy is the fact that that went into actual state law this year, where it's different of how the investigative procedures occur now. Used to, it was kind of a district's decision of how they did the investigation and what have you. Now, where it's changed into state law, and there are some exceptions, so we will get some clarifications, because typically we're a small town. You have some teachers that maybe have a babysitter, or, I mean, you know all those things. But now if we find out that there's one-on-one communication besides what's approved by one of the platforms that we're going to talk about later, but either through a text, email, phone, if it's one-on-one, then it's automatic. The employee is put on administrative leave, and then we begin an investigation, write up a report, that's put into their file, and then also all board members are notified as to what it was. So, like I said, OSSBA said that we'd probably get some more clarification later on to cover some of those things that, occur when, what about if it's a second cousin or little things. But that's the basic gist of it, of why. Everything, if it's, sometimes our sponsors, coaches set up a meeting, they can send a group text to the team, and as long as it's more than one student on there, and multiple, if it is just one student, then that's why it needs to be parent, guardian, somebody, principal, somebody else on there that as an adult on that. And then to kind of cover up before we vote on it, talk about 4.2, just kind of goes with it. So many of those, the Parent Square, Google Suite, IXL, those are academic things that, Jason may need help from his teacher, where that teacher's just responded directly with that one person on an assignment. But all of these leave a record for the school, for anybody, to trace. And so that'll be what's next on 4.2. That's why those platforms are on there, and you're like, why are there so many platforms? So
that was asked to me from a teacher, coach, and it was my understanding that Parent Square, that it had a marker that, if it was a one-on-one communication, that communication is stored in our, I mean, there is no privacy in that.
None at all.
Okay, yeah, because I think he was replying to what time does the bus leave kind of thing. And did I just directly communicate with the student without talking to the parent? I said, well, if it was via Parent Square, I believe it is. Yeah. It is. And
there may be some other things, if some other programs that we may pick up later, but these are the ones we thought of and came up with the other day. So back to 4.1. That's what caused the change in our policy, which our policy was pretty good. And if you look at what OSSBA sent out as their recommended, ours was probably even more strict than theirs in some regards. So,
and that implementation is based upon the Oklahoma statute that just got passed by this legislative session.
Effective July 1. Right. So we had started sending out emails to all the sponsors, and we sent it to everybody on staff, and so obviously that prompted a lot of questions. And basically just told them, hey, we'll get some more clarification on some of this, but basically to cover the coaches in the summer, that's probably the biggest direct contact with different students.
And many of the things I saw in the statute, we already were implementing, that we did Absolutely. On our own Hennessey schools within the last 5 and 10 years.
Yeah. So I would recommend that change to the board.
Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, I move to approve the electronic communications policy as presented.
Second.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Simrod,
Yes.
Mr. Lau,
Aye.
Mrs. Charmison.
Yes.
Now we're going to talk about 4.2, which Mr. Sternberger alluded to. These are the platforms of which
Yeah.
that communication can be.
We may have some more come up, but as of the other day when we sat down and discussed this, that's what we came up with. Huddle, I didn't mention Huddle. I don't know if all of you are familiar with that, but that's, you know, the athletes that are recorded. Coach may send an athlete, just say, hey, watch this, review this film, and send from one kid of saying, hey, here's something you could do different. So that's why Huddle's on there.
So do you have this as an action item or just informative? I mean, are we approving these?
Yeah, I would recommend to the board that we approve these, and then if we add anything else later, that'll come to you at a different meeting. So yes, I
And
would.
this covers all parts of the campus regardless?
We think so, don't we, Mr. Cameron?
Well, yeah, we think so. There may be others out there, but those are the ones that we came up with that most.
And these are all filtered through the school of some sort? I mean...
Yeah, a lot of these are like IXL, Study Island, McGraw-Hill. A lot of those are just things that they use maybe as a supplement to their teaching, but they can assign things, but the kids can actually ask them questions through there, so there is actually some conversation that could go, you know, two ways in those, as well as like the Google Suite, which some teachers use Google Docs, and a kid would, you know, a student will write an essay, and the teacher will critique the essay, tell them what they did wrong, and they can respond back to them and fix the essay. And so that's just another thing, and that includes our emails.
One-on-one communication,
Yeah.
but as long as there's a timestamp and a
Right, and
recording of this.
Yes.
If it would ever come to
yeah.
that. Questions? I'll move to approve the services listed as proper communication tools for our staff, with the understanding that others can be added and or deleted.
Second.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Simrod,
Yes.
Mr. Lau,
Aye.
Mrs. Charmison.
Yes.
Item 4.3 is regarding changes in the middle school and high school handbooks.
In the middle school, he had just two recommended changes. One of those was on page 9, and that was just, you know, no wearing of pajamas unless maybe it's a spirit week or a school-approved day for everybody, but, you know, dress for success type mentality and not wearing pajamas. And then the other is later on in his handbook, he addresses AI or artificial intelligence of students, any homework, plagiarism, all of that. So that just covers any type of, you know, students won't receive work for anything that's discovered to be AI. And then high school, he had a list there of the proposed changes, the semester test section, wanted to add a student of the month, a policy for perfect attendance, changing the academic misconduct policy, and then addition of the artificial intelligence as well. So they are both on vacation right now. They'd be here to answer any questions. So,
Well, so you got to answer the only question I have, all right?
I haven't answered yet, so I'm going to attempt to.
In the high school, regarding the students of the month, it stated that 2 students would be selected. It did not specifically say a boy and a girl. Is it that, I mean, they did just 2 at random, or is it a boy and a girl?
I would assume a boy and a girl.
But when you assume, handbook things, then, you know, it's not a big deal, but if, you know, it just wasn't written in there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't get a chance to visit with him. His schedule and my schedule, we have not had a chance to visit, so.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Sternberger regarding the middle school and high school handbooks?
And you can clarify that in the motion if you'd like, to make sure it is.
Well,
To just add that.
it's not really,
I'm assuming you'd prefer it to make sure it is.
I don't really care. I just know that when you're reading a policy and it's not specifically
Yeah.
mentioned, then it's up to, you know, then it's up to Mr. Faulkner going, oh, no, it's a boy and a girl. It's, you know, and implementing that all the time, where it's not actually not written in there, one boy student, one girl student each month. I'm just, as a, you know, someone who studies rule books, there's vagueness right there.
Why don't we just pull that one out?
And it can be changed, you know.
Or
now.
pass it and we can.
Right, now, it can.
And clarify.
Now,
it
is
all
it
the
going
time.
to print tomorrow? Are you printing the handbooks to be ready to hand out
Not tomorrow.
a month from now? So, yeah, it's just a question that I had that I'm great with the policy that is in there. And if he wants to leave it vague, that's perfectly okay too. Anybody else?
I think it'd be fine if there were 2 boys selected or 2 girls selected, or when, also.
Until you go like 5 months in a row where no girls have got it, then, you know,
Gotta step up.
maybe they haven't earned it, I
If
don't
it's our
know.
4th grade class, maybe. Now the boys are outnumbered. I mean,
Well,
so I would make those recommendations.
I'll move to approve.
And I will second.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Simrod,
Yes.
Mr. Lau,
Aye.
Mrs. Charmison.
Yes.
Do you have any new business?
No new business to act upon.
Then report to us.
Just a few things on the projects and facilities. The bus barn is, we're completely in it. The only thing that is not done is the gas line running all the heat and the hot seat. It's not there. They've applied for like just a PVC, a 2-inch pipe to come through there as a service line, and the state's like, look, if we're gonna do that much, we want a 4-inch line, and then you can feed off of it. So it's just gonna take them time, figured by the end of the month, which we're not gonna need our heaters by the end of the month by any means, so it's not big at all. And that project, we owe $1,000 on it, so that's basically paid out. Parking lot's coming along very well. I've had, before these storms that came in, stretch of dry run where, you know, they were able to get a lot done. The holdup with them is kind of with the gas line as well. They started on the sewer, the storm drain, and that northwest corner of where you enter into the football, baseball field, that northwest corner where they set the box down, they didn't bust it, but they ran into what they assume is a gas line, so they called ONG, came out on Friday, and when I talked to Kyler this morning, ONG just hadn't got back to him, but that's the holdup of setting that main box. But if you drove by and you saw all the water in the parking lot, you can see where the water's gonna run and hit into the storm drain and then go south, so that's what we're waiting on. But before the rains and then with this little deal, we were just a little bit ahead of schedule, so we're in pretty good shape there on the parking lot. I've asked Gary, he didn't have a chance to get pinned down on when they would rock that road behind the baseball and softball field and do that. Once that's done, then the only thing that we've got left to do in that area is once the parking lot's done and they can have a straight shot to come in and dig up the fuel tank that's in there, and then we'll backfill that. And then once that's done, whatever dirt's left over, then we'll tell people, come help yourself. There's not much left over now.
I think that'll be used to fill up that tank.
Most of it will
So-
be under 10. And there is a little bit behind center field
You
too.
brought up fuel tank, wasn't there an expenditure for a fuel tank? Was that, I thought
think
that was
that's
replacing.
That's the new one up there.
It's a new tank at the new bus
Yes,
barn?
yeah,
Okay.
new tank up there.
I
This
just
one-
knew that the other one had to be replaced and
Yeah.
dug out. I didn't know if we
Dug
could
out.
replace it already. Okay.
And it just hasn't been pulled out of the ground yet.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna get a quote, look for perimeter fencing around the bus barn, so.
They've removed 90% of the dirt. Is still the county that's pulling that dirt
That
from the new
was,
bus barn
yeah, that was, yes.
construction?
Yeah.
It's
The
just
road
almost.
looks nice. I mean, it'll be nicer when you
It-
gravel it.
yeah.
But it looks nice.
Yeah. So that's all that's going on the facilities.
That's all for your report?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go to personnel.
How about, just a question. real
Yes.
quick. How
And
about,
is there any other projects that you guys want to see started? So,
I was just curious about your busting out your hallway in the high school to fix those drains and the.
I did not have a chance to visit with Jared lately to see where they are on that.
Because that'll be a mess.
Yeah.
That it?
That's it for me.
Okay. 7.1, in regard to adjunct teachers Kevin Hopkins, high school language, arts, physical science, and Doug Boyd, high school biology.
Yeah, we just need to go through the process of officially getting approval as adjunct teachers. We hired them last month, but then that way we can apply to the State Department. Just have to have board motion on that.
With your recommendation?
Yes, sir.
Move to hire.
Second.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Simrod,
Yes.
Mr. Lau,
Aye.
Mrs. Charmison. Yes.
7.2, as my screen just jumped. Regards the employment of certified staff on temporary contract for 24-25, high school history teacher with extra duty on top of that.
So this position came open. We had a young man who had originally committed to us that ended up backing out, took a job closer to where he lives. And so some of the history is the teaching portion of it, but because of his background, kind of changed some of the extra duty stipends, or not stipends themselves, but assignments. And so recommending Jacob Stewart as the history teacher, and he will also be assistant fast pitch softball and assistant junior high baseball.
I didn't realize he was certified.
What did you say? I'm sorry?
I said I didn't realize he was certified. I knew he wanted to try to become involved up here, but I didn't know he was certified. It's good.
Good deal. I'll move to hire Jacob Stewart for 24-25 on the temporary contract.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Simrod,
Yes.
Mr. Lau,
Aye.
Mrs. Charmison. Yes.
7.3 regards the extra duty schedule and assignments for 24-25.
So most of these have been previously assigned or voted on with any of the new hires, people moving over. None of the stipends were increased from last year. You know, used to have a column that would show, but I'm not recommending any changes in the stipends. I think over the last couple of years, we've been able to get those squared away and about as equal as what can be. That you can see there's some TBAs or to be determined. And so once we get those, you know, there'll be a line item kind of like hiring this person for this, and I'll just come back to you at that time.
What is the $20 hourly rate for covering activities?
So that is like in the winter, especially when we get strung out, where if maybe somebody that's not Josh or Richie or myself covering an activity, they get that $20 an hour. Sometimes for like tournaments, we like to have 2 or 3 people available. And so, you know, just to keep wearing somebody down or something, we just will do that. A couple people.
Just administrator on
Yeah, to become basically administrator on duty, yes, sir.
I think we may have to, in the future, address hiring mothers, because I've had a lot of people congratulate me on Mrs. Faulkner coming back. I mean it.
Just keep
She
them
didn't stay up there
names
very
in
long,
there.
did she? And I was like, that's the wife. This is,
The
Yeah.
mother.
this is mom.
Any other questions regarding extra duty assignments? Seeing none, I'll move to approve the extra duty schedule for 24-25.
I'll second.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Simrod,
Yes.
Mr. Lau,
Aye.
Mrs. Charmison. Yes.
And with no new business being presented since it was asked about 9 minutes ago, I will move to adjourn.
Second.
Dakota, that was your champion.
Mr. Griffin?
Drop the ball.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Simrod?
Yes.
Mr. Lau?
Aye.
Mrs. Charmison? Yes.